Oh man, I've been playing retro style shooters all day. I really should take a break. Uh-oh, I think my brain has reverted to 90s game settings mode. That's not good. I should probably go get some help. Mom, I have a problem. Oh crap. Hey there, how's it going? I'm TechDweeb, welcome. Thanks for clicking on the video today. I am a big fan of retro games, and I love me a good first-person shooter, so you know what would be amazing? A video about modern retro-style shooters. If only I had a brain big enough to make a video like that. Oh, wait, I do. These games are all modern games, but they look and feel like the classics that I grew up with in the 90s. We're talking chunky pixels, low poly enemies, crunchy sound effects. I love these kind of games. They're like a time machine for my brain, instantly transporting me back to sitting in front of a beige monitor with a squeaky ball mouse, surrounded by empty squeeze-it bottles, blasting through demons until my mom yells at me to go to bed. And good news, Mom is away this week, so we can stay up as late as we want and check them out. So without further fiddlin' and diddlin', as my grandpa used to say when I took too long to eat my vegetables, let's get some 90s vibes flowing with these retro-style shooters, shall we? Back in the good old days, some of my favorite PC games came from 3D Realms, formerly known as Apogee. If you played DOS games back then, you know that when that logo popped up, you were in for something special. So imagine my nerdy squeal when I fired up Cultic and saw that name again. The legends are still around, still making games, and Cultic feels like a proper love letter to the golden age of PC shooters. This one is super old school PC style FPS game style. I love the low resolution rendering, the super limited color palette, low res textures, and the pixelated dithering effect. It's like they're putting the restrictions of old GPUs into the actual game design, and it works so well at creating the illusion that you're playing a classic retro first-person shooter. My favorite part is the sprite-based weapon models. I love when these retro-style FPS games do that. The movement and controls are totally modern, so you can bring your 2025 FPS skills along for the ride, but the rest of the game makes you feel like you're back on a creaky beige tower PC. The kind that hums loud enough to drown out moms yelling at us to clean our room, as they do. The story of this game is creepy as heck. You wake up in a pile of bodies. Apparently someone didn't check your pulse properly, and you quickly discover that a cult is behind a string of murders and disappearances. They're into torture, cannibalism, and things so bad I can't even say them because YouTube will demonetize this video. The game is tough too. I fired this up on hard mode expecting to get through it with my FPS skills, but I couldn't do it. I got stuck, it was so hard, so I had to swallow my pride and restart on regular difficulty. Ammo and health are scarce, and enemies are everywhere, and the level design keeps you tense and paranoid in the best way. And Cultic feels old in all the right ways. It's the kind of game that could have been a dusty shareware disc on your desk, but polished for modern sensibilities. If you've been craving a creepy high-action adventure through the twisted halls of a pixelated cult, this game will definitely scratch that itch. That very, very weird itch that you have. This one's pretty new. It came out earlier this year. It's called Bloodshed, and this one can be completely accurately described as Doom meets Vampire Survivors. That's it. That's the game. I could probably stop talking now, but then I wouldn't be doing a very good job of making a video, which is kind of my thing, so, you know, I'll just talk about it. This game is so freaking addictive. I've recorded for like 15 minutes for this video, and then I played on my Steam Deck on the couch, and I lost track of time. I can tell this is one of those dangerously addictive games. It's all the addictiveness of Vampire Survivors. You know, you're killing stuff, waves of undead foes swarming at you, and as you murder them, they'll drop little experience orbs which you need to collect, and when you reach experience milestones, you're going to be offered upgrades. You might get upgrades for your guns, or some armor, or the special little items like traps that get dropped after a cooldown. Each mission you have a goal, so you're just kind of trying to survive long enough to get that done. It starts out easy, but it gets hard very fast. In the first minute, you'll be like, oh yeah, I got this, no problem, and then the 1 minute later, you'll be begging for mercy. What makes that entirely okay is that the game mechanics are super tight. The shooting feels great and it's precise, and you have complete control, and the headshots that make the bad guys explode into orbs are just so satisfying. The icing on the undead cake is that the art is just gorgeous. This really feels like a retro shooter. From the simple environments and low resolution textures to the interface and especially the enemy sprites, how they're doing that fake 3D thing but with 2D sprites, it's gloriously cheesy and I love it. I am not a Warhammer 40k guy. I've never played Warhammer 40k, the minigame or any PC games really, at least not 40k. I did like Warhammer Vermintide and also Total War, but the 40k settings was always too sci-fi-ish for my tastes. I'll take swords over lasers any day. However, Warhammer 40k bolt gun came with my humble choice last month and I fired it up and this might be the first 40k game that hooks me and I play all the way through. This game is so my jam. If Jam had chainsaws and flamethrowers. It is a classic retro-style boomer shooter, so you've got sprite-based enemies and weapons, right down to the low frame rate animations. I love seeing the guns reload over like 3 frames of animation. It feels kind of purposefully janky. That's what these retro-inspired shooters should be going for, and 40k Bolt Gun does that in almost every aspect of the design. There's a good mix of futuristic sci-fi, but also with like medieval vibes. Hey, just look at what you're seeing. Look at the gun models and the environments. They look like ancient relics, but from the future. I'm not sure how that works, but they did it. They nailed it. I have no idea what the story's about. I'm sure there's a story, but I haven't been paying attention, and I don't care. The story to me is shoot everything that moves. And if it doesn't move, I'll shoot it anyway in case it was thinking about moving. One thing that sets this game apart is the level design. It's old school feeling, how you need key cards to open doors, finding secrets and stuff, but it's also just big. The levels are huge and they have you going all over the place, so it creates this sense of scale that ends up feeling like a big playground, which is nice because the movement in this game is great. You feel like this big honking space marine sprinting and stomping through this world and smashing through everything on the way, shotgunning and sawing bad guys in half all over the place. The momentum is what makes this one so addictive and satisfying. This game just gets my blood pumping. It's one of those games that's dangerous to play at night because it winds me up and it makes it hard for me to wind down and go to bed on time. Just like a real Space Marine experiences, probably. And next up we have, my computer just crashed. Now that's a weird crash message. Never seen that before. Huh. Well, I mean, it's not wrong. This game has one of the most retro-feeling title reveal sequences that I've ever seen in my life that will forever live rent-free in my head. They even have a thing when you start a new game that you can pick which era of PC you want to feel like you're playing on. Thank you, only lead can stop them, for giving me this gift. This is a retro-style FPS that really feels like someone found an old shareware disc from 1994. It's like Wolfenstein 3D, but this one is about fighting fascists in an alternate history version of the Spanish Civil War. You get the usual toys to play with, machine guns and shotguns and flamethrowers and explosives. No stealth in this game, because subtlety is for people who put milk in the bowl before the cereal. Those monsters aren't welcome here. The whole thing is wrapped in this classic boomer shooter charm. Chunky pixel art, sprite-based enemies, keycards for the doors, and secrets tucked away into slightly suspicious wall textures. You can just feel the CRT glow and hear the floppy disk grinding away as you're playing this one. The levels are short, but they feel packed with stuff to do. You'll tear through castles and muddy trenches, creepy forests and catacombs, blasting through squads of soldiers and cultists and eldritch horrors. There's a good mix of open areas where you can strafe and let the bullets fly, and claustrophobic corridors where you're constantly running face first into rooms full of enemies that instantly open fire. The movement is classic chunky FPS. Just that straightforward, slightly stiff locomotion as you glide through the levels. Wolfenstein style. The gunplay is punchy and satisfying with good feedback where the bad guys explode into little pixel chunks like you're hitting a piñata full of meat. One thing that I love is how the game doesn't waste time with a big story dump. It's kept very basic, just barely enough to give you a reason to kill everything that moves. It's like a history lesson but taught by a 90s first-person shooter with demons. Honestly, more history classes should do that. I'd be a lot more likely to pay attention if they did. If you've been craving something that scratches that Wolfenstein and Doom itch but adds a touch of modern flavor, this one is worth booting up. Because only lead can stop them. Probably. I didn't try hugs. Most of the games that I've covered so far feel like early 90s sprite-based shooters, but let's wrap this up with the same leap that we got later in that decade. I'm talking about the jump to full 3D with Quake. And, fittingly, this game is literally made with the Quake 1 engine. It looks like Quake, it feels like Quake, but it's also so much more than Quake. Game design has evolved a lot since those days, not just in terms of the graphics and the tech, but in how we design levels, pace the action, and make sure you don't get trapped in a broom closet with no ammo. This is Wrath, Aeon of Ruin, and it's pure old school energy all the way down into hell. It is soaked in the blood of the 90s shooters we love. This delivers tight, satisfying combat and big, varied environments. I've only played the first hour or so, but it is clear that this is a hefty game with hub worlds connecting huge areas packed with arenas to fight in, weapons and power-ups to grab, and secrets tucked away for that sweet dopamine hit. You're also going to be fighting a wide variety of bad guys, including these godlike Guardian bosses. The combat feels like 1997 made out with 2025. The weapons are chunky and satisfying. Enemies go down with glorious splatter. The pacing mixes intense fights with moments where you're just exploring and soaking in the architecture, massive cathedrals and crumbling fortresses, eerie swamps, and then you ruin it all by smashing everything apart. At least I do. The composer for this game apparently worked on Quake and Dusk and Doom Eternal, so every track makes you want to strafe in circles while firing something that spits nails. You can crank the resolution and the animation settings for modern crispiness, but I turned them way down to get that authentic 90s game feeling. It sells the illusion that you're playing one of the best shooters of the 90s, except it's brand new, runs like a dream, and it doesn't come on a stack of suspicious floppy disks that you found at a yard sale. I'm serious. What I found on those floppy disks, it haunts me to this day. If more games like this crawled out of the Quake engine, I would never step away from my PC. My spine would hate me, but my heart would be happy. And that's it. That's the batch for today. A glorious pile of pixelated mayhem, chunky weapons, and fast-paced fun that proves retro-style shooters are still some of the most satisfying games you can play. Take that, cozy games! And I'll have more than one follow-up to this video because I have so many games of this style that I'd love to share. And of course, I'd love to hear if you have any to suggest too. If there's any retro-style shooters that you love, please let me know in the comments. But that'll do it from me for today. I'm gonna go accidentally play Bloodshed for 6 hours straight. I'm TechDweeb, thanks for watching, bye bye!